Hello my friends, welcome to my channel Spiritual Rain. My name is Rain and this is Healing with the Inner Tarot episode 2. I am using this beautiful book, The Inner Tarot by Kate Van Horn, as my guide to a 78 episode healing journey that I'm happy to share with you. Thank you so much for being here. Now, I'm not a therapist, I'm a self-therapy enthusiast, and I'm continuing my education in modern applied psychology. I love human behavior, it fascinates me, but it terrifies me at the same time, so I'm always trying to increase my education when it comes to psychology. Now, I just wanted to say that this is a series about healing, so some of the subjects that we talk about might be triggers for you, so I want you to keep that in mind, okay? And if you feel the need to seek professional help, please do so. There are a lot of resources out there. In the description below, there's a link where you can download a PDF file that I created. It's a workbook for today's episode, and it's got some homework that you can do after the show. I've also included an original tarot spread that I created. It's called Juggling Your Priorities, so that's my gift to you. So let's get to it. Today we're talking about the Two of Pentacles and how we can connect with this card as a way to heal. The Two of Pentacles is about keeping balance and juggling priorities, and this is how Kate describes the Two of Pentacles in her book. This card asks us to juggle. It's about maintaining balance while caring for and nurturing multiple priorities at once. Time is precious, and the Two of Pentacles reminds us how important it is to notice where and how that time, attention, and energy are being spent. A key phrase of advice that Kate mentions is, remain calm as you continue to navigate your many responsibilities. As someone who manages post-traumatic stress disorder and anxiety, remaining calm as I navigate my many responsibilities sometimes seems out of reach. I admit the long-lasting effects of burnout have really made me susceptible to stress. When I feel like I have too much going on, especially if you add a little twist of drama or conflict to the mix, I have a tough time juggling things. Adding to Kate's description of the card, if you look at the card just behind the man who's juggling the coins, we have some pretty rough seas there, don't we? These are life's ups and downs. We could be feeling overwhelmed by the priorities we've been juggling. I mean, we all have busy lives, right? Sometimes we can only do so much to stay afloat, and sometimes we overdo things, and if we're not careful, that can cause anxiety. But if we look at our juggler, he seems calm and carefree. He's not overwhelmed, so maybe this suggestion he's giving us is that we try to balance and calm our minds before making decisions about how we prioritize our lives. If you can juggle everything, and you're relatively stress-free about it, hey, that's great. But I'd say that's rare. I think most people have so much on their plates a lot of the time that we simply aren't feeling as calm and collected as this juggler seems to be. When this card is in the reversed position, it can mean that you might be trying to juggle much too much. It's turning your world upside down, and you're starting to feel a little bit of stress and maybe some anxiety. You might feel like you can't handle everything. When that starts, sometimes we freeze. We can't do anything because it just seems like there is too much to do. This is so counterproductive because not only can we not take action, we start to feel bad about it, and it creates feelings of guilt and shame. Physically speaking, in our bodies, it can create burnout, leading to fatigue, depression, illness. The list goes on. Juggling too many things isn't a good thing, my friends. There's only so much time in the day, right? Maybe we need to reprioritize what we think is important. What we really think is important may not necessarily be that important. Maybe we need to delegate things to others, or simply decide to say no. Or, well, maybe I'll think about that and I'll get back to you. Wipe a few things off that to-do list, you know? You don't always have to say yes to everyone. We don't have to juggle everything. All of these ideas and descriptions of the Two of Pentacles, especially the reversed, remind me so much of the plague that's been called people pleasing. There are so many great quotes out there about people pleasing, and here are some of them. If you don't take control over your time and your life, other people will gobble it up. If you don't prioritize yourself, you constantly start falling lower and lower on your list. From the beautiful Michelle Obama. Another quote from Lao Tzu is, care about what other people think, and you will always be their prisoner. And the third one is from Rachel Walchin. Givers need to set limits because takers rarely do. I love that. Givers need to set limits because takers rarely do. It's very true. So what is people pleasing? Well, it's a person who constantly strives to please others, often sacrificing their own wants and needs in the process. A people pleaser is someone who has a hard time saying no. Now, it's very different from someone who genuinely gives of themselves out of kindness and charity. I had a neighbor one time who volunteered every single weekday morning for the charity Meals on Wheels. She drove meals to people in need every weekday morning without fail, like winter, summer, spring, fall, always. I think she even worked on Christmas, volunteered on Christmas to help people out. She had a family, she had a house to take care of, but that was her commitment. She was very generous with her time every day, but she wasn't a people pleaser because she wasn't sacrificing her own wants and needs. She did it out of the kindness of her heart and the belief that every person out there deserves a warm meal every day. Now, a people pleaser feels the need to please others for unhealthy reasons, right? And it's usually based on past trauma that someone might have experienced. People pleasing can sometimes appear as a fear response associated with those traumas. And I'll talk a little bit about that as we go along here. Now, here are some common traits of people pleasers according to PsychCentral. Now, you might identify with some of these. I think I had all of these traits at one point in my life. Making attempts to avoid abandonment, conforming to harmful behaviors, peer pressure, right? Disregarding your self-interests for the sake of others. Experiencing anxiety about perceived abandonment. All of these things, as I'm reading them, are just making me think of my past romantic relationships and how I was in them. Oh my gosh, I was such a people pleaser. Attempting to maintain closeness by self-sacrificing. Yep, I did that. Telling others what they want to hear to avoid conflict. That's a biggie. Accepting invitations to do things you might not want to do. Having challenges with advocating your own needs. Keeping your needs quiet for whatever reason. Exhibiting a lack of personal boundaries. Perceiving that you're likable only if you continue to meet another's needs. Apologizing excessively to others. Rarely expressing criticism, and rarely disagreeing with others. These are all unhealthy traits to have, but sometimes as non-people pleasers, we can actually display these traits once in a while. I think that the point is, if you display a lot of these traits all the time in your relationships, then you have an issue with people pleasing. Now, what are some of the reasons that people please? Number one, to avoid rejection. Nobody wants to be rejected, but people pleasers have come to the conclusion that if they're always putting others first, that they're more likable, and therefore they won't feel rejection. They desperately want to feel accepted. Number two, unmet emotional needs. Maybe we feel deeply lonely due to past traumas, childhood issues, or being abused in a relationship. We feel the need to put others first and ourselves last because we desperately need to feel loved. For whatever reason, a people pleaser might feel that their needs are not as important as others' needs are, that their wants and desires and dreams are never, ever as important as others are. Maybe they feel undeserving or unworthy, so they work extra hard to please people. But one of the big problems with that is the more we put everyone else's needs and wants and desires and goals and dreams above our own, the more our self-esteem takes a hit. We can become doormats and pushovers and become very, very vulnerable to entering abusive relationships. When we're so eager to please because we feel unworthy of love, predators can sense that. And I'm not talking about, serial killer kind of stuff. I'm talking about abusive people. They can sense that. And a people pleaser can suffer manipulation and become someone's figurative punching bag, most of the time without even realizing it. Not only in relationships does this happen, but in the workplace as well. I was a people pleaser most of my life. I can give you a personal example of that. When I was a teenager and a young adult, I was the party planner. I was always the one who called all the friends to get together, to go to the pub, to watch hockey games. I made the plans. A lot of the times, I paid for the tickets. I'd pay for the dinners and drinks and the movie tickets and things like that, And I know I was taken advantage of. And, to be honest, none of those people from that time in my life are my friends now. Not because I wanted it that way, but because when I stopped planning the get-togethers, they never called me. And I remember once I started to feel like they weren't really all that interested in my friendship. So I decided not to call one weekend. And nobody called me. But I did find out they all went to the pub anyway. It was awful. One of my friends called me on Sunday morning and she asked me, "Why didn't you show up?" And I said, "Well, nobody called me." She felt really bad. She was sure that someone would have called me, but they didn't. Now, I'm not recounting this story to play the victim or for a pity party. It's just to show you that when you people please, you kind of train people how to treat you. And what happened as a result of being left out was that it made me even more of a people pleaser, Of course, for me, this was based on feeling neglected as a child and abandoned as a child. I had to work really hard to get any kind of positive parental attention. As a child, even as an infant, you start to form your core beliefs. Now, the third reason that people please is false core beliefs. Now, just to be clear, what are core beliefs? According to a company called Therapist Aid, core beliefs are a person's most central ideas about themselves, others, and the world. These beliefs act like a lens through which every situation and life experience is seen. Now, Medical News Today says core beliefs develop in response to a person's experiences. They begin developing in early childhood and continue developing over time. Here is some very important information that I want to share that I saw from a company, Evergreen Psychotherapy Center. Children's core beliefs become deeply ingrained and operate outside of conscious awareness, affecting how they perceive themselves and interpret events and social situations. Children who lack secure and loving attachments commonly blame themselves and develop a self-image as helpless, bad, and unlovable. It's so sad. These children see danger even when it's not there. They misinterpret social cues and assume the worst and overreact emotionally and behaviorally. The result is ongoing conflict with parents and peers, aggressive and controlling behavior, and further damage to the self-esteem. Now, these are false core beliefs that a traumatized child can start to really believe as truths and bring those truths into adulthood and all of their adult relationships. They can be, I am bad, unwanted, worthless, helpless, and unlovable. Another false core belief, My caregivers are unresponsive to my needs, insensitive, hurtful, and untrustworthy. Another example of a false core belief. My world feels unsafe. Life is painful and burdensome. So if you had traumatic experiences in childhood, you probably formed false core beliefs about yourself, because as children, we don't have the emotional intelligence to form healthy beliefs if we're made to feel bad, scared, or unsafe. We simply can't process that. I'm going to share something personal here. One of my parents told me that they often left me out alone in a crib on the back porch because I was crying too much and they couldn't handle it. Left alone crying as an infant. This parent said it like it was no big deal. Like, oh, I put you out on the porch, you know. But my gosh, when I really think about this, no wonder I had issues of abandonment for most of my adult life and my teenage life and my childhood. I learned as an infant that if I showed pain or fear in the form of crying, that my caregiver would abandon me. So this false core belief that I developed as I grew up with many more traumatic experiences was that I wasn't really worthy of being cared for, and that I really had to work hard to be treated well and to be worthy for love. How false is that, right? I had to pretend that my hurt feelings, my pain, and my fears meant nothing. I couldn't show that at all, or I'd be left alone and dismissed. I had to go out of my way to feel safe with anyone. I had to forget about my own needs, my own feelings and emotions, and I had to make sure others were happy so that I could feel safe. Of course, this led me to toxic and unhealthy relationships where I completely ignored red flags and stuck around way too long, always forgiving my partner for treating me badly because deep down I felt unworthy. But at the same time, I was terrified of being rejected and abandoned. I became a total doormat. It took me a long time to figure out this behavior and link it to why I stayed in unhealthy relationships when I knew I should never, ever be treated that way. I deserved to be treated well. I deserved to be treated with respect and love. But this goes back to last week's episode where I mentioned trauma being stuck in the body and in the unconscious mind. This deep-rooted and very false core belief that I'm worthless and that life is unsafe and that I had to put my needs on the shelf to please everyone around me so that they would love me and not leave me. This was all locked into my unconscious mind, and it took a lot of light bulb moments and lots of education and self-therapy to really come to terms with this and change that false core belief into a core belief that I deserve to be treated well. I don't have to people please to have somebody in my life. I don't have to people please to be loved. I just have to be myself and feel safe with myself and trust myself. People pleasing is not a good thing. It's a very unhealthy response. If we think about stress responses, most of us have heard of fight or flight. Now, this is where we either stand up for ourselves as a stress response or we run away. There's also freeze. This is where we figuratively freeze. We can't speak, we're stunned, we're shocked. Deer in the headlights type of thing, right? But there is also a theory, my stomach is growling. Did you guys hear that? I need to eat before I do these videos. Sorry about that. There's also a theory that there's a fourth stress response called fawning, to fawn. And the definition of to fawn is to seek approval or favor by forms of flattery. Now, thinking about the stress response to fawn, well, that's people-pleasing 101, isn't it? It's a stress response because deep-rooted in our false core beliefs, we think we don't deserve better. We may not be aware of it, but it's there in our unconscious mind, buried deep. So our stress response to this buried trauma is to fawn, to please other people, to put our needs aside. So how do we change this behavior? This inherent what I call personality defect? Well, firstly, we have to realize what's happening, and a lot of times we don't. So I have another example to share with you. I had a really good job at a blossoming internet service provider back in the 90s when the internet was really just starting to become mainstream. Some of you may remember that you had to wait for that AOL disc in the mail and install it so that your modem, you know, the do you remember that modem noise? Oh my God. You had to install all of that software before you could connect to the internet. And remember, if someone used the phone while you were on the internet, you got kicked off. And it took, remember how excruciatingly long it took to load pages? Oh my gosh, I'm not a fan of technology, but I'm very grateful for high-speed internet now. So I got this job as a billing clerk for this internet company that offered immediate connection for people. All they had to do was give them their credit card and you could be online like that. You didn't have to wait for anything in the mail. So it was becoming very, very popular. I was with this company for 9 years. It was a family-run company, the father, 2 sons, and the daughter. I worked for the daughter. Well, she decided one day she wanted out and she offered me her job as VP of administration. So of course I took it, right? And it didn't pay well, but I felt like I was accomplished, you know? So for the next maybe 5 years or so, I worked basically 3 jobs for the price of one, always being told, oh, you're the best, Rain. You're part of our family now. You're the adopted daughter that I never had. I went to their house for Sunday dinner. Lots and lots of praise, you know? But still a minimum wage. But the way they treated me, I felt like I finally was part of a family that I never really was welcomed into and never belonged to. I finally felt that I was worthy of being part of a family. But it was all misplaced because they were only treating me well so I would work really hard for them and make them money. And I have proof of that, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. So during this time when I was working there, they sold the internet company, and I helped them start up a trading firm, you know, stocks and bonds and all that money-grabbing crap. After 7 years or so, I was given an offer of profit sharing, and I worked my butt off for the last 2 years that I was there to get the company profitable. And I was a success at it. The owners, the father and the 2 sons, were making a great salary. They all had new cars. I was still just over minimum wage, working 100 hours plus a week. Finally, after 9 years, I burned out. And when they found out that I was on workman's compensation and that I was seeing a psychology, but by law they still had to pay my medical benefits, one of the brothers asked me, and I will never forget this. He said, Rain, can we fire you? He asked me because I was also the head of HR and I knew all the rules. I couldn't believe it and I got angry with him. And I told him, no, you can't fire me. I would go to the labor board if you fired me, because I still had every intention of going back to work. I didn't believe that the burnout was going to last 10 to 12 years before I felt better. Anyway, after that, they sent a company-wide email and I got CC'd on it telling the employees not to speak to me. Now, that company was my entire life for 9 years, and suddenly I was completely shut off. And why? Because I wasn't slave labor anymore. But was it all their fault? No, I can't say it was all their fault. My people-pleasing behavior is what attracted me to them because I worked cheap and I gave more of myself without asking for anything in return. But they did make the choice to take advantage of me, so yeah, they are responsible, but I am too, because I feel like I enabled it. Not knowingly, not consciously, because the cause of people-pleasing was part of my deeply buried false core belief system. And it makes me cringe to remember that I used to put, I'm a people-pleaser on my resume. Those predators just pounced on me. Now, there are dangers to being a chronic people-pleaser. People-pleasing danger number 1. We reinforce to ourselves that we're not good enough. When we believe we need to be different or better than we are in order to be included and loved, we try to hide or change ourselves. People-pleasing danger number 2. It gets in the way of true connection. We're too busy watching people for cues about what they want and what they think of us to be truly, genuinely curious about who they are. So we never really truly connect. We don't feel seen and known because we're only letting other people see what we want them to see. They can't connect with us because they're interacting with our performance, not our true, genuine selves, right? People-pleasing danger number 3. We neglect ourselves. This can lead us to neglecting our own needs, wants, and preferences, whether because we're too busy paying attention to others or because we believe their needs are more important than our own. People-pleasing danger number 4. We suppress our emotions. We might avoid expressing anger, fear, sadness, or even joy if we think that those emotions might displease those around us. And this can lead to pent-up emotions, which leads to a lot of issues in itself. People-pleasing number 5, danger. Our actions are manipulative and dishonest. Think about that. You may not be aware of it, but when you're people-pleasing, your actions are manipulative and dishonest. This was a hard pill for me to swallow, but it's very true. People-pleasing may seem nice and generous, but when we hide our opinion or agree to something we don't want, we aren't being truthful. People-pleasing danger number 6. We teach people how to treat us. We don't do this purposely, but it is very true. If we become doormats and keep being doormats, people will walk all over us when they have the opportunity. Well, not all people, but a lot of people. Now, people-pleasing danger number 7. We fear our differences. We believe we need to be just like someone else in order for them to like us and approve of us. Something that's so not genuine. We are not our genuine selves. People-pleasing danger number 8. We don't know ourselves. We're too busy tending to the needs of others that we lose who we are. So if we go back to the Two of Pentacles card now, is this reversed card an image of a people pleaser? That's something to think about. Going back to Kate's book, The Inner Tarot, with every card she has a section called How to Connect with the Card. What she suggested on how we could connect to the Two of Pentacles was what gave me the idea about people pleasing. She says, practice the art of saying maybe and getting comfortable with it. I'll repeat. Practice the art of saying maybe and getting comfortable with it. Now, I could add, practice the art of saying no and getting comfortable with it. When I said maybe to someone once, they said, well, doesn't maybe just mean no? I would say not necessarily. If you genuinely say maybe as a response to a request, then that's what it means. And that's what it should mean, right? It means, I need to think about this. If you mean no, then say no. But if you really want to stop being a people pleaser, say maybe, truly think about your options, and then get back to that person in a timely manner. You might realize that, yeah, I do want to do this. Not because I have to, but because I want to. If you feel obliged to say yes, then maybe you might want to take a few steps back so that you can ground yourself and weigh your options and realize that maybe what you really want to say is no. But you have to be comfortable with saying maybe or no. And that's going to take practice. If it makes you uncomfortable, sit with it. Accept the discomfort in knowing that you are healing from a deeply rooted trauma that caused you to be a doormat. When you feel that discomfort or even anxiety from saying maybe or no, give yourself a pat on the back and remind yourself why you have the right to make your own decisions based on your own feelings, your own values, and your own ethics. And remember, this too shall pass, right? Saying yes when you don't want to say yes breeds resentment and all sorts of other negative emotions. And we all know that negative emotions, when not dealt with properly, cause physical dis-ease and illness in the body. Kate also has a section for every card called Deeper Reflection. She suggests a few journal prompts, and here they are. I'm still deciding on, and you fill in the blank after. I'm still unsure about. It's okay to keep exploring before committing to, and you fill in the blank. These journal prompts have helped me tremendously lately with regards to a personal problem I'm having. My people-pleasing nature, even though I'm aware of it and I'm trying to heal from it, it still pops out once in a while, unbeknownst to me. And using these journal prompts has helped me to really deal with the discomfort of saying no, or even saying maybe, that I really want to think about something more deeply. I have something that I do quite often. I call it my mirror, mirror on the wall work. And when I'm feeling the trigger of people pleasing, I go to my mirror and I actually repeat these affirmations. I'm not responsible for other people's feelings. I have the right to my own opinions. My self-worth comes from within. It's not my job to comfort everyone all the time. Prioritizing myself isn't selfish. I don't have to do things on other people's timelines. Their emergency is not my emergency. Feeling guilty is not my intuition speaking to me. My energy is my priority. Doing this exercise while repeating these affirmations and looking directly into my eyes forces me into the moment, and I really listen to my voice and my words. The words I choose affirm me that it's okay not to jump when people call, not to stop everything to answer that email or that WhatsApp. And that if someone doesn't want to be my friend anymore because I say no to them, well, that's going to be okay too. I have a link to an article that you might find interesting. It's called How to Stop Being a People Pleaser, and I've linked it below in the show notes. Here are some general Two of Pentacles journal prompts for you. And again, they will all be listed. All of this stuff is going to be listed in the downloadable PDF workbook in the show notes below. Now, these general prompts are from the book Journaling with the Tarot. To what must you adapt? When times are tough, what can you tell yourself that will help you cope? Are your priorities in the right order? How do you know? What do you temporarily need to put on the back burner, and why? Now, I have a book. It's called Trauma Healing Journal. And for this series, I'll share a specific trauma healing prompt with you. This particular prompt is under the heading of self-care. Are there new self-care activities you'd like to explore as part of your healing journey? Ask yourself that. Are there new self-care activities you'd like to explore as part of your healing journey? Now, I'm a little bit iffy on the term self-care sometimes. If it's used properly, I respect it, but a lot of the times it's used kind of like giving us the idea of it being blown up into, you have to draw a bubble bath and put candles out every day with soft music and do yoga and meditate and have a mani-pedi and go to the spa and reach enlightenment. You know, it's not all about filling yourself with all of those things. Self-care is about doing things that make you happy and make you feel fulfilled and rewarded and bring you joy and bring you into the moment of enjoying your own company, right? That's self-care. It can be 1 to 5 minutes a day of doing something that you really enjoy, or it could be hours. It's just doing something out of the routine that's only for you. Now, something I'd like to get back to, so it's not really a new self-care activity, but it's part of my healing journey, is to start reading again. I have been so busy in my life that I have a ton of books on my shelf that they're collecting dust. I'm a big fan of biographies and I love reading them. I used to carve out an hour a day to read, and I so enjoyed it. It wasn't just about reading someone's story. I was focused. I was calm. I had a nice herbal tea beside me. I was relaxed and not connected to the rest of the world. This is all a grounding experience where you can calm the mind and you're in the moment, enjoying what you're doing. Now, I'd like to pull a few oracle cards to emphasize the idea of trying to stop people pleasing. Now, the first card comes from the Bob Ross Oracle. And for those of you who don't know him, he was an artist who made oil painting accessible to anyone who wanted to paint. His methods were fun and easy, and you could create a work of art in 30 minutes if you followed his Joy of Painting series. I think it was in the 90s, the 80s and 90s. So I pulled this card, the blank canvas. Now, if you think about healing from being a people pleaser, it's more than just making your own needs a priority. You need to come to terms with why you do this. And it may take a lot of self-therapy or professional therapy to uncover it. But in the meantime, you have a blank canvas. You can make the choice, although oftentimes it will be uncomfortable and might be filled with anxiety, but you can make the choice to do something different, to start something new. Your canvas is blank. You can choose to say no. You can choose to say maybe, and sit with those distressing feelings that come with that choice. Eventually, as you start to do it more often and realize that your needs are just as important, maybe you'll fill this canvas with self-love, self-respect, and decide that your needs are just as valid as anyone else's. This is a quote from Bob Ross himself. Boy, we have a lot of fear when we first touch a big old blank canvas, but once you get over it, that's when you begin experiencing the joy of painting. This is so relevant to healing. Once you're able to get over that fear, you can really enjoy the work you're putting into healing. Now, I wanted to show you another card. This is the Two of Pentacles from the Wise Dog Tarot, because I think that dogs could be maybe described as people pleasers, not in unhealthy ways like humans, but in kind-hearted, happy ways. They ask so little and give so much without any unhealthy emotions associated with it. That's a human thing. I will always say this, we can learn so much about ourselves from our pets. There are dogs on this card playing in the background. They're having fun, they're being in the moment. And we have this gorgeous dog with the infinity symbol and the Two of Pentacles. The guidebook mentions that you are now at a place where distraction doesn't take your attention anymore. Like this dog isn't attracted by the dogs playing behind him. He can now juggle his priorities with calm and focus. And look at his eyes. They're focused and relaxed. What a beautiful image. Now, I'd like to pull a card for the collective as something that we can keep in mind with regards to healing from people-pleasing. This is the Get Clear card from the Whispers of Healing Oracle deck. This beautiful woman seems to be journaling and really concentrating on something that's on her mind. I think a good practice is to really get 100% clear on why you are people-pleasing, why you feel unworthy of other people's love, attention, affection, of a good job, a good friend, a successful life, all without having to kill yourself pleasing in the process. Ask yourself this, what are your intentions for you? Are your intentions to stifle your needs and desires to please someone who might not even be interested in pleasing you back? Get clear, my friends. Do some journaling. Do some thinking. Go to a quiet spot and think or write or even talk. I often record videos of myself talking just to get out what's on my mind. I'll watch them back and see the look on my face, my body language, and the tone of my voice, and it gives me a lot of insight on what's going on with me. Freeing yourself from people-pleasing isn't easy. It takes a lot of hard work, and it takes strength to cope with the feelings that will be associated with it. And we always have to remember that if we've been people-pleasing for a long time, and suddenly we step up and say maybe or no, those on the receiving end might not be so happy about it because they're used to us always bending over backwards for them and saying yes. So we not only have to be prepared for the discomfort that we might feel over saying yes or maybe, or saying no or maybe, I should say. There might be fallout. People might not want to hang out with us anymore because they can't take advantage of us anymore. So what are the points that we should be thinking about after today's episode, my friends? Well, juggling our priorities can become unhealthy if we are not balanced in doing so. People-pleasing is very unhealthy and can stem from childhood trauma. False core beliefs can lead to people-pleasing. Fawning is a stress response from buried trauma that leads us to feel like we need to always please others. There are many dangers to people-pleasing that affect our health. We can practice the art of saying maybe and no to combat people-pleasing. Journaling and genuine thought can help release the reason we people-please. Saying affirmations in front of a mirror can boost our confidence. And focusing on new activities that make us happy can ground us and help us realize that we don't need to people-please to find happiness. Well, that's our show for today, my friends. I hope that some of this resonated with you and you took some value from it. And I hope it helped you if you needed to hear some of this. Please leave me a comment. I love reading your comments and I do reply to all of them. I am so pleased with all of the comments and the emails and the messages I've been getting about this series so far. It's so rewarding. And remember, this is my healing journey too. I'm healing along with you. And I thank you so much for joining me as my stomach growls again. Oh my goodness. And don't forget to check out all the stuff I've left for you in the show notes, especially that downloadable PDF workbook that I've created with the original tarot spread that you can do. Next week, we'll be working on the Three of Pentacles. So until then, my friends, take care. I'm tapping my heart, sending you lots and lots of love. Bye.